Good morning, Europe. Thank you for starting your day with us. Here's a look at Thursday's top stories.
Germany accuses Moscow of power play after Russian state Gazprom reduces gas flows, pushing energy prices even higher in Europe. Turkey opens joint coordination centre in Istanbul to oversee the export of Ukrainian grains and fertiliser, following the UN-backed deal. And the World Health Organization recommends targeted vaccinations rather than a mass programme in the fight to control the monkeypox virus. Germany is accusing Moscow of engaging in what it calls a power play. That's after Russian state-run Gazprom halved the amount of natural gas flowing through a major pipeline from Russia to Europe, capping it at 20% of capacity. It's the latest Nord Stream 1 reduction that Russia has blamed on technical problems, including repairs to a turbine. But Germany calls the move a political one, to instigate uncertainty and push up prices amid the war in Ukraine.
The turbine is there. It has been serviced. Our Canadian partners have agreed to the delivery. We are very grateful for that. So from our point of view, there is nothing standing in the way of transporting the turbine to Russia. What we are seeing here is actually a power play, and we won't let ourselves be impressed by that.
The European Union has been preparing for cutbacks, and on Tuesday agreed a plan to reduce gas consumption by 15% this winter to break its dependence on Russia. Many agree there is a bigger picture to the current energy crisis.
If there is a strategic decision on the part of Gazprom to reduce gas supplies and not to rush to move towards Europe in terms of increasing the supplies and the weaponization of this trade, I would say yes. There is certainly such an element here, because we are not discussing the situation as to the effects on people, but we were discussing it in the context of large-scale conflict between countries, between the West and Russia, which no one is hiding.
The crisis has put controversial nuclear power back on the agenda. Environmentalists say now more than ever before, renewable energy must be the answer.
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will be coming to Paris on Thursday as his European tour continues, a tour that marks his return to the international scene since the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi back in 2018. A killing reportedly ordered by Mohammed bin Salman himself, something that Riyadh has repeatedly denied. Here in the French capital, the Saudi Crown Prince will be hosted by France's President Emmanuel Macron himself, returning from a tour of African countries. Emmanuel Macron's office has said that the two leaders will be meeting for a working dinner at the Élysée Palace without providing further information about the goal of the visit. Mohammed bin Salman has returned to Europe, meaning business. He came to Greece accompanied by 3 ministers and a large business delegation. He met with the Greek Prime Minister, where he signed several bilateral agreements. Here in France, he will most likely do the same. France and Saudi Arabia have a long history of cooperation, notably in the field of defense, but also in the tourism industry, something that France has been working with Saudi Arabia to develop. Annelise Borges in Paris for Euronews.
Turkey has formally opened a joint coordination centre in Istanbul to oversee the export of Ukrainian grain and fertiliser. This under a UN-backed deal aimed at resuming shipments for the first time since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February.
The duty of this centre is to provide safe sea transportation of grain and similar food products exported from the Ukrainian ports of Odessa, Chernomorsk and Uzhny.
He says that more than 25 million tons of grain are waiting to be exported. With preparations underway, Kyiv hopes the first ships will set sail in the next few days. But Russia says it's too soon to evaluate the deal.
We are committed to our obligations and to the effective implementation of the Istanbul agreements. However, of great importance is the constructive efforts of other countries, including honest assistance from the UN and the conscientious approach of the international community, primarily Western countries.
After meeting with his Spanish counterpart, Poland's Prime Minister gave assurances that Warsaw will help with the export of the grain to avert a food crisis.
We are ready to help in the export of Ukrainian grain, since the failure to take it out may lead to a huge deficit in access to grain, to wheat, in North Africa and the Middle East.
Meanwhile, local authorities say at least one person was killed and several others were injured in a strike on a hotel in Bakhmut in the eastern Donetsk region. Elsewhere, fighting on the ground in Ukraine continues.
In the Austrian Alps, 2 hotels with links to Russian oligarchs have been sold at a forced auction. The Maximilian Hotel will go to the Otzel Consortium for €6 million, while the Terralerhof was bought out by the Association of Hoteliers of the ski resort Zerfaus for €3.8 million. In 2019, following his investigation, politician Alexei Navalny said a secret business was being run in Austria and accused Andrei Metelsky, the former head of Putin's United Russia faction in the Moscow City Duma, of acquiring 4 hotels with dubious funds. He suggested that these were then registered in the name of his mother, his son, and of an old friend, Pyotr Ivanovsky, United Russia member and former Moscow deputy. According to Navalny, Metelsky withdrew more than €50 million from the country. Since 2020, the authorities have been threatening to put the properties up for auction due to the termination of loan payments. According to the Austrian media, hotels bought by Russian businessmen in the prestigious resorts of Tyrol received more than €6 million in aid from the budget during the pandemic.
The Pope has touched down in Quebec. It's the next leg of his historic trip, offering an in-person apology for the role of the Catholic Church in the abusive treatment of thousands of Indigenous children in its residential schools. Pope Francis flew east across the country from Edmonton, where he was greeted by Governor-General Mary Simon and Prime Minister Trudeau. Leaders have pointedly told the pontiff of the horrors Indigenous students endured.
On Monday morning, I was sitting with survivors, and I felt their reaction to your apology. Each will take from it what they need, but there's no doubt that you had an enormous impact.
Our desire to renew the relationship between the Church and the Indigenous peoples of Canada, a relationship marked both by a love that's born from the outstanding fruit and, tragically, deep warmth. We are committed to understanding and healing.
As crowds gather to see the Pope, they remember the Indigenous children separated from their families and brought to residential schools from 1870 to 1996. They were starved or beaten for speaking their native languages and sexually assaulted. Gunfire has rung out on the streets of Port-au-Prince as Haiti's gang wars intensify. More than 470 people have been killed, injured or gone missing this month. The violence has forced hundreds of children and adults to take refuge at a prestigious high school, and the state university has suspended classes after finding bullets inside its classrooms. Flash flooding has killed more than 300 people and left hundreds injured in Pakistan. The government has issued warnings of further extreme monsoon downpours in 14 more cities. Pakistan, which suffered an extreme heatwave earlier this year, ranks among the most vulnerable countries on the Global Climate Risk Index, recording the economic and human loss of extreme weather.
You're watching Good Morning Europe. Do stay with us. Lots more to come on the programme.